My name is Carissa Alexandra Daniels, and I am a domestic violence survivor and victim advocate. I have left my home because of domestic violence 23 years ago with my then 3-year-old daughter and started over in a place we knew no one. In spite of all of my work to get and stay safe, my ex found us. We had to move, and we really need to move again, but we've had to build a life after surviving domestic violence. Domestic violence isn't a one-time thing. It lasts for a very long time. It's a journey. And I think the thing that is the most challenging to me is the fact that I left 23 years ago, but the problems and the challenges continue even today. Right now, I'm dealing with child support that is not there. And he's paying just enough every month to keep me from being able to get assistance. I mean, we're talking, he is paying me $380, and if I get $350, I get no help. So even though he's out of state, it would not surprise me that this is deliberate. He has taken off or quit jobs 34 times, leaving us with nothing but my disability income. My daughter is also disabled and requires significant physical therapy in order to keep from being paralyzed or lose limbs. And right now, we can't even afford to do her physical therapy. And with the pandemic, just like everyone else, it has had a huge impact on us. Even though we're out, we left the domestic violence, things did not stop. They continue to go on, and the abuser uses the system against us. In over 90% of cases of domestic violence, when she leaves, he uses financial abuse against her. So in that, we're not rare, but it's tough. And I'm dealing with, I still have to come up with about $5,000 in rent money to avoid being evicted. It's an ongoing thing with a lot on my plate. But I'm really happy to be here. And I really feel that getting out this message is so important that it needs to be a priority for me.
Absolutely. I totally agree with you. I know how it works, how the system works against the mothers, against women, how we are treated. And as you know, I'm on the same page. I'm having the same problems, and I don't know why they're doing that, honestly. And this is absolutely unacceptable. It's total discrimination based on gender, which is against the law. This is harassment, this is abuse, and it's a severe abuse. And the law should be on our side, should protect us, should do something about it, and should go after them and ask them why they're doing that. If you cannot pay, at least you should leave this woman you don't want in your life, and you have treated like an object and never loved it, to make money, to make living for herself, instead of being on her electronics, using your friends, using your community, and doing crime against the child, which is yours as well. So it's really, really difficult times we live in, and we as a women are even omitted from the society as an equal residents, and we are forgotten about our needs and what kind of abuse and harassment we are constantly facing on a daily basis. And I can hear you, and it's time for this to stop. There should be harsher laws. There should be people who should stand behind us and should do something about it. So tell us
Absolutely.
about, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say that one of the things that we need to acknowledge too is the fact that there were laws written to address some of this that were written clear back during the Clinton administration more than 20 years ago. And those laws are on the books, but they refuse to use them. I know this because I was a reporter 20 some years ago when those laws went into effect, and they've never used them.
I
And the
know.
result is continued abuse through finances of survivors and their children. And all we want to do is build a life and move on and heal and stay safe. In my own case, a lot of it had to do with the fact that he knew that I was limited on what I could do. And so he's used that. But I kind of turned the tables on him, as you know. And one of the occasions when he was looking for us just prior to our moving, I got online. And up until that time, I had not done so, only because my ex is a computer genius who worked for Microsoft. And he's very proud of that fact. And I sat there for 8 years and learned from him an awful lot about computers.
Mm.
And I didn't use it for the first few years after we got out at all, because I knew that there were ways that he could track us, and I did not want to risk that. But when I knew he had found us, I got online looking for support as we worked to get safe. And I put into Google domestic violence survivors and help. And it took me to a brand new, at that point, website that sadly no longer exists, but we still do the work we do, called Cafe Mom, where I got into what was then a brand new group. It only had probably 20 people in the group at the time that I got into it, and started seeing stories of other women who were dealing with similar issues. But the first message that I read on that site was from a mom who had not left yet. And she said, "I'm terrified because I know he's going to kill me, but I'm equally terrified of what I need to do to get safe. Is there anybody out there who's been in shelter who can demystify that process for me?" Well, we spent 4 months underground, and we were part of the confidential shelter system. So I knew all about that. And I was also trained as a victim advocate through my local shelter program, even though I couldn't work there. So I had the ability, the experience, and the skills to be able to help this lady. But my reaction was, because this was the first thing I'd laid eyes on in the group, I need to find out what this is all about. So I spent about 20 minutes surfing around. All the while, this was nagging in the back of my head saying, "You need to deal with this. Help her." After 20 minutes, I had an experience that changed my life forever. My fingers hit that keyboard, and I literally told myself, "I'm in." And I answered one message, just one. One message turned into hundreds, then thousands. And I wound up spending 12 years of my life on this website helping women who then helped other women because it mushroomed and did amazing things. At the time that I started doing this, I didn't realize how unusual it was or anything else. I was looking to see if I could find someone else who was doing what I was doing so I could connect. We always want somebody that we can relate to. And I felt that it would be really good if I could have someone who understood what it was to be dealing with somebody at 4 in the morning and trying to find them resources. And I couldn't find anyone. This was 2007. So everything was really new. And I was probably the closest we can figure out the first one to do online victim advocacy. I know that within a few months, we went from about 20 people to hundreds and then thousands of victims who found us online. And I was volunteering 16 hours a day, 7 days a week, trying to keep up with all of this. And it was overwhelming. It was more than one person could do. And thankfully, I ran across someone who became my mentor, who was a advocate in real life, who at that point worked for the police department in her area. And she was involved in the domestic violence victim support organization there. So I was able to get a hold of her, and I wound up having all of her numbers so that if something went down and I needed support that I could not handle, I would have her information and her availability to help me. So I wound up getting the support that I needed in a different way for doing what I was doing. After that, I wound up writing the book, quite literally, on domestic violence cyber advocacy so that I could train other people to do what I was doing. So that way there would be no gaps in the program, that somebody would be there pretty much 24/7. And we had our first class of cyber advocates. They were trained for between 50 and 75 hours of class time, in addition to spending time in the group. So I wound up using the same computer that I had seen my ex use for bad purposes, only I used it for good. And it's something that I'm very grateful because it was a life changer.
That's amazing. And can you imagine how many women are going through the same thing we are going? And I'm still struggling because of his friends, community, lies, manipulation, and portraying me as a villain, and he's a good person. And it's kind of interferes with my work, with who I am. With I have written 6 books. I am award-winning singer, songwriter, and I'm still struggling because of these constant cyber stalkings, with constant lies, with constant slandering. I was robbed probably 10 times. You have no idea. I have 2 cameras at my apartment right now, and I'm trying to make money, and I'm forced to do Ubering. I cannot do anything with the work I came here to do, and to do the things that I should do just because of his actions. And not to mention the people he got involved. The people he got involved who are standing on my way, and I cannot move on with my work, and I cannot help other women. My book was selling fire and ice so good in the beginning. Right now I cannot sell my book. I cannot do anything. I'm the bad guy. I'm the one who is struggling, and he's a good guy. And I left everything to him, everything which we worked together for, the business. And I'm the one who is trying to make a living, trying to build life for myself, and I cannot do it. Everything what he did, all kinds of things. He actually told people that I did it. And it's absolutely outrageous, and people willing to trust him, not me. And I don't know. I don't know what to think about it. Why people are acting like that, I have no idea. Honestly, I don't. It's so disturbing. And like you said, leave me alone so I can build my life. I worked so much. I work 12 hours. I'm overwhelmed from work. I did a lot of work helping women, and my book was selling really good. And I was helping women that they were contacting me all over the world. Right now, everything is blocked, absolutely blocked. And I'm trying my best, and they're on my phone, they're on my computer, everywhere, and they're threatening people they're gonna beat them up. You have no idea. You have no idea what I'm dealing with also. And that's why I'm doing this show, so I can hear other women's stories, hear how they cope with everything what is going on around them, and how we can help each other, and how we can turn things around and force somebody to get the attention so we can move on with our lives, because we have this life only. We don't want to waste it, and we want to build life. We want to be able to pay our bills. We want to be able to live like normal people, not constantly struggling and looking behind our backs. And it's just terrible. It's terrible, and it's not right. And this is United States of America. So we need to do something. We need to come together. We need to share our stories. We need to push this so we can get the kind of attention we're looking for.
And I've started working in the last little while legislatively on some of these issues. And I think I'm about to, as they say, go up the chain, because everybody gives us the pat answers, but nobody is actually doing what is needed to solve the problems. I think I have a media background before becoming ill, and before the domestic violence even. I want to be able to utilize that, I think, in helping to get out our message, because there's got to be an end to this. This was an epidemic long before COVID ever became a thing. And COVID just made it worse. In King County in Seattle, Washington, last year, there were 4 times the amount of deaths due to domestic violence that there were the year before. So COVID is putting it on steroids, essentially making it much, much worse. And they're not addressing this. They knew going into COVID that this was going to be an issue. Some countries attempted to address it. The United States did not. It's time for that to stop. It's time for legislators to get off their butts. Oh, I used the B word. But to get off their butts and do their job.
Yes.
That's
I'm totally
what we
agree
put
with
them
you.
there for.
Yeah, because women's life matter. You want to live too. You're a human. It's violation of your human rights. We
Absolutely.
want our freedom. Yeah. Hey, things don't work in the marriage. Why are you doing this to me? Why you robbing me from my life? Yeah, why you staying on my way? Why you're not paying the alimony you should pay? And this is your child. I was the mother. I raised the child. I helped you to build a career. I helped you to build a business. I helped you to do this and that, because I took the responsibility on my back. I was the one, the scapegoat. And you should, if you are a man, you should be able to pay for this child, which is our child. And this child has nothing to do just because we cannot get along and we get to the point where we don't love each other and we cannot stay together any longer. And it's for my benefit and it's for your benefit as well, because I'm going to find the person who is going to love me and respect me and treat me the way I should be treated as a human being. And you are going to get this chance as well. Why are you in my life? And why, as a man, you're not doing your job? Here is the question, right?
Right. Exactly. And unfortunately, what I've seen time and time again, both in my own life and in the lives of victims that I help, has been that revenge and holding grudges and obsession takes precedence over doing the right thing. They always ask domestic violence victims, why don't you just leave? Like, that's going to solve the problem. All
Exactly.
that does is create new ones. And it's time for them to recognize that and to say, okay, we need to find ways to solve these problems so they can move on. Because that's all we want.
Exactly. That's what we want. We want to be protected. We want to build life for ourselves. We want to be. We want to feel free. We shouldn't feel like we need to, live in poverty. We shouldn't feel like we need to watch behind our backs and install cameras and do this and do that. And we shouldn't be blocked on media places for doing the things we want to do, because during the COVID-19, actually this computer was giving us the window so we can make a living. But when we deal with people like this, we cannot do anything. Our hands are tied. And that's why so many women are ending up on the street and nobody's doing anything. And I try to do it here in Los Angeles. I used to live in Seattle also. And we build a shelter for women, but it's not enough because more women and more women are coming, and it's becoming even more difficult to accommodate it. And the problem is because women are not protected. Women are not, don't have place where they can go. Women are afraid. They're not allowed to keep the perpetrator from coming in their life again. A lot of women leave and they get killed because this is obsession, like you said, with the person, without thinking that this is wrong, because they're not capable of thinking. Most of these people, they have some kind of a problem. I don't have to tell, if you are violent towards somebody, there is something wrong with you. This is not way of communication. You need to get help to deal with this. But the person who is taking the abuse, the verbal abuse, which is absolutely, absolutely unacceptable way of communication, of treatment to somebody else, you need to understand that you need to find help and you need to let this person go. Maybe sometimes at the end, when you go through therapy, when you go to counseling, you might find a middle ground and think about it. What are you doing? And fix it. But most of the time, this is not the case. These people just cannot get along with the other person, and the other person is not obligated just because she's a woman to live in this kind of environment, not to mention the child that is watching all of this. And there are so many tragic events during the COVID-19. Children got killed, women got killed, and it's absolutely unacceptable way, and it comes to our law system because somebody is not doing the work, and we as a women are still treated as a vision to men, and we are basically obligated to take this kind of a treatment, which we both know it's not right, and we should be protected as well as the child.
Absolutely. And a lot of what goes on within the system itself basically sets up our kids to continue that same pattern of domestic violence from there on. Everything from requiring survivors' kids to have visitation with somebody who has, at the very least, abused mom. And there's actually studies out now that say if that kid witnessed or heard the domestic violence, it's no different than if they were abused themselves. It has the same impact on the brain as if it was them being abused. In many other cases, the child not only witnessed it, the child was also abused. And that is a whole other level of hell. That's something that I lived. And when I started seeing what was going on with my daughter, I knew I was going to have to leave. And then he ordered me out of my house, and I was supposed to leave her behind. My daughter was my miracle. I was 38 years old when I had her. I was told for 15 years I had a better chance of winning big in the lottery than I had of having a child. And that's my daughter. She is my miracle. And I would go through hell walking barefoot on hot coals to get her safe. In my case, that meant 4 months underground. I should have stayed underground. Unfortunately, one of the shelters that I went to did something that is against all protocol, I can now say as a victim advocate, and forced me to get an order of protection against him. In doing that, he was served with papers and he had everything he needed to go after us. This is why I tell victims when I'm working with them, you need to sit down and think about whether you want an order of protection or whether it's better to avoid that. It's getting much more difficult to stay underground and to stay safe than it used to be. Our tech stuff is amazing and it can be a huge blessing. It can also be a curse because, and I just had an experience here a few days ago again. I periodically do checks just to see what can be found about me online. And they had my current street address online. And I ripped him a new one. And within less than 12 hours, it was off. But if he found that information during that point in time, which is entirely possible, if he didn't know before where we were, he would now. That's not okay. In Washington State, we're one of the states that actually leads the nation in a lot of ways when it comes to domestic violence related stuff. And one of the things that we've had for a very long time now is a program called Address Confidentiality. And you might be familiar with it, but it enables domestic violence survivors, victims of stalking, and certain other people to use a substitute address through the Secretary of State for Washington to have on all of our first class mail, on all court documents, to keep us safer, to keep us, as the teenagers would say, on the down low, and to make sure as much as possible that our information isn't just floating around out there waving a red flag saying, hey, here she is, she's over here. And so I do periodic checks just to see what's out there. We really want to be able to move, but at the moment we're kind of stuck where we're at, so we will see what happens. My ex being a computer genius, it's highly probable he knows where we are. And that's
Absolutely.
not a comfy feeling.
No.
He is special forces.
Ouch.
And yeah, I spent 8 years hearing that he did not need a weapon to be lethal. He demonstrated on my body where he could attack me and kill and leave no marks.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't take anything for granted. And my job's not done yet. And my daughter needs me. And the work that I have been called to do to help others is my calling, and it's not done. So I need to keep going and find ways to do what I need to do. I don't know what those ways are all going to be. You know, I have ideas of exactly where I want to go. We'll see, you know, how far I get on that path, like you.
Yeah, keep your eyes on the target. No matter what, I know you can do it. I see you have a lot of strength. You're very motivated. I can see it. So keep going.
You too.
Thank you.
We
Well,
have
definitely.
we have to help each other. I think that's
Yeah.
where part of our strength lies, is in being there for one another and helping one another to find ways to make this work. So things like this show are an amazing opportunity, because not only is it an amazing opportunity for us to have time and be able to get mutual support and encourage each other, it's also important for the people out there that are seeing this that maybe thought, oh, well, when they leave, that's it, they're done, no big deal, or who don't really understand how this all works. One of the things that my ex was really good at, typical narcissism, but he was one person to the world and he was another person to me. And so when he started spreading his lies, and amongst other things, I have been told that one of the things he tells people is that I am a convicted felon and I took my daughter and did not bring her back, and basically the equivalent of kidnapping her, which was not the case at all. When he found us, my reaction was, okay, if I'm going to have to deal with this, let's deal with it in a way that my daughter will be safe. That's all I wanted this whole time. If I hadn't had my daughter, I would have been done. I would have been out of here a long time ago. But because I have my daughter, all bets are off. And I'm a mama bear. So that means you do anything to her, you're going to deal with me and you're not going to like it. And even though the first round of court left me against his big bucks attorney, and the judge from the bench told me I was not to say anything, and if I said anything, it would be considered contempt of court and I would be taken immediately to jail. Even though that's how it started, that's not how it's going to end. I am determined that that will not be the way that this story ends. And eventually I was able to really beat the odds and get an amazing attorney, who actually, another attorney told me that I had the best domestic violence attorney in the state of Washington.
Wow, that's great.
And oh, she was amazing. She was a pit bull. And it took 5 years of going through the courts and him putting things off and getting continuances and whining about this, that, or the other thing. But eventually I was given sole custody. of my daughter. And that's why I have her today. So, you know, don't give up. If you're in the middle of all of this and you have kids that you're struggling with the whole thing, don't give up because it matters. It's important to you, but it's also important to those kids.
That's true, yeah. They need their mom in
Mm-hmm.
their life. They need both parents, but they need their mom. And if
Absolutely.
the father is a narcissist, these are people who are sick, and the chances to change, it's really little. And the thing is, they don't feel that why they have an issue with who they are. They feel that everything what they do is the right thing to do, and it's absolutely impossible to convince them that they're doing something wrong. They twist and turn everything, all the truth, everything what happened, and they made you the bad guy and them to be the good guy. And it's very difficult. They know how charming they are. The people around accept them, like you said, they're one person with the people around, but they're a completely different person when they're at their home, around their wife, around their children. And it's really difficult war to deal, and it comes with this illness, because this is illness. And if it's incorporated with some substance abuse, it makes even things worse. So
Absolutely.
I know very well, yeah, what are you talking about? It's really difficult war when they come to the courthouse, and that is something I need to tell every woman to know. Once you go to a therapy, they want to trick you to go to a therapy, you're in the system. And it means that you are the problem because you needed a therapy, not them. So this is one of the reasons the women are losing their children. So my advice is talk to a life coach, talk to somebody in a group with women who had been like your case, my case, in this situation, instead of going to therapy, because right away you're the one who has the problem. You are the one who created everything in the family because you needed a therapy. So keep in mind, and most of the time when the judge sees that you used to go to a therapy, you lose the case, you lose the child, because you are the psycho. And they love to turn you into a psycho, they love to turn you in a crazy person, they love to turn you in everything you could possibly imagine, the ugliest version of yourself. And I know, because I am experiencing this on my back, they lie so much, they're very convincing with the lies, and people believe them, and without even doubting. And it's really difficult war with these individuals, because again it comes with the illness, and most people are not familiar with this, and it's a good thing if they have amazing family. This is what I want to see, and I'm sure it's what you want to see in the society. And once they get involved in with this kind of individual, then they remember that being behind the victim, being the voice of the victim, it's really important, because I'm telling people you are not immune. Anybody can get in this situation. So don't be insensitive about other people's lives, pain, and what they have been through. And I can tell you that 99% of the women I talk to, somebody who used to be in a courthouse, used to be women's advocates, and she said 99% of the women end up dead. Can you imagine how little is a chance for the woman in domestic violence situation to be alive? And everybody's turning blind eye on this situation, and it's really, really difficult work. So now is the time for all of us to come together, to get involved, because this could be your child. And it's I can imagine the pain when your child is being beaten, verbally abused, physically abused, and in yet being killed. And I have seen mothers crying, and the system is to blame for this. The system
Yeah.
is to blame because they're not taking things seriously enough, and it's showing how much women's life it's not valuable. And I'm not gonna hide it. They need to do something about it. They need to have harsher laws. They need to have place to stay right away. They need to protect the children instead of coming in the house and taking the children and leaving this woman to deal with the psycho at home, because this is a psycho. And yet and the dad and the child is separated, and it's without even listening about what the woman has to say, what the child has to say, what's going on behind closed doors. Just, we need people who know how it feels so they can relate, and these are the people who are going to trigger the change, not people who goes to school and learn this, because nothing comes from a book, and I can tell you that, and you know that very well. Our life doesn't come from a book. It comes from experience, from all the pain we've been through, all of these dangerous situations we have faced, and we got out on the other side. And at the same time, using our stories, using everything what we can to help others, because we experience it. We didn't read it in the book.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And there can be a time and a place. I got within 4 courses of having my Bachelor of Arts, went to one of the top schools in my area, really in the United States in a lot of cases. I got within 4 courses of having my bachelor's degree. And
Good.
as I was doing all of that, I was utilizing that to educate people about what it's really like in domestic violence. I got to go and speak at social work classes and have social workers to be who started going, oh, wow, this is what it's like, because they had no clue. I began to work with the school in ways that hopefully will continue to impact people in the future. I had one of my professors actually came to me and he said, "You are the second domestic violence survivor that I have had in a class." And he said, "I hope you're okay because the first one had to leave." She left because he found her. So he learned something from that. And it made him much more open to what I had to say and what I had to teach. I feel like in school, I learned a ton. Having gone to the school that I went to, I was truly blessed. But at the same time, I taught a ton. And that's the other thing that I'm really most proud of. I was invited to speak for what's called Take Back the Night, which is a event that happens once a year on campus where women are allowed to tell their stories of rape, of sexual assault, a lot of which happens on campus, but not always, and related areas. And having been through all of the above, they figured I was a pretty good choice for a speaker. So I got the call. What they didn't know, they got more than they bargained for. Because part of what led to my domestic violence relationship was what happened in my life before. And in this
Mm-hmm.
case, what happened, I was a very successful contemporary Christian artist. I was a singer and songwriter.
Ooh.
And at the time I was doing that, had a day job to pay the bills for about another year, I thought. And at that point, I was going to be going full time. And I was working with one of the top Christian choral directors, who was one of my mentors, and doing special events with him, doing gigs all over the place. And I had gone one night to a rehearsal And on my way into the rehearsal, I got stopped by someone.
Mm-hmm.
And the person who stopped me wouldn't take no for an answer. And I finally answered their question and went on my way, and just, I was done. But the guy gave me a really creepy feeling, creepier than anything I had ever felt before or since, actually. What I didn't know was when I left that rehearsal and went home, I was being stalked. I was being followed. I got in my door, put the keys on the counter, locked the door. I always do. And a few minutes later, there was a knock at the door. I did not have a pickle. I will never in the future ever have a place that doesn't have one. This is why. I opened my door about an inch and my foot was behind it to keep it from opening anymore.
Good.
He slammed the door open, got in my
Ouch.
house, and held me prisoner for almost 4 hours.
Ouch.
The man's name was Charles Rodman Campbell. You can look him up online. He later murdered 3 people we know of. There have been numerous others that they suspect, including a woman who testified against him for what he did to her.
Ouch.
And I went through rape and I went through hell for about 4 hours.
Oh, I'm sorry. Ouch.
And I went through that experience, managed to live through it. Thank you, God.
Yeah.
But it fractured my life. And it influenced all my choices in a way
I
that
believe you.
I made choices that I wouldn't have made otherwise. Now, I want to make it really, really clear that I would never choose to not have my daughter. She is the one thing good that came out of everything. But I would choose to not be with the ex if I could. But if the only way I could do that was to have my daughter, only way I could have my daughter was to be with the ex, then my choice would have been the minute I found out that I was expecting to leave immediately. And
Yeah.
that should have been it. And I did not know, like a lot of women, so many of us don't realize, because so much of the abuse is about more than just being physically or sexually assaulted. Not that I'm minimizing that in any way. It's horrific. But there's a lot more to it, as you and I know. There's the psychological abuse. There's the put downs. There's all of the rest of the stuff that goes with it. There's the financial abuse. When I had my daughter, my ex was making boku bucks. We'll let it go at that. I did not know how much my ex was making, but he was making boku bucks. He supposedly couldn't afford to buy her a high chair or pay for milk. And so I was trying to do everything on my little tiny disability income that was set 30 years ago before my accident, and doing the best I could. I didn't recognize all of that for what it was. And I think that's so important that we get out to people the reality that it's so much more than he hit me.
Yeah.
And that those things matter, but the other thing that matters is when he is psychologically abusing you. Coercive control is a nightmare. And that is the core of domestic violence. It's about control. It's not just he hit me. And when politically things happened the way they happened the last 4 years, one of the things that was changed was the definition of domestic violence. So now we've got to go back in and fix that, because it basically said, yeah, if he physically abuses you and leaves marks, yeah, it's domestic violence. No, domestic violence is and always has been coercive control. And we need to treat that. And we need to work on that and get the message out that that's what it is. Because there's a lot of women who don't leave, not because they don't want to, but because they don't know.
Exactly.
And we have a setup going on because we have a society that says forgive and forget.
Yeah.
And it's okay. You got to keep the relationship going. You know, those vows mean something. Yeah, the vows mean something,
Exactly.
but you know what? The minute he went into coercive control, he broke those vows. All bets were off when he did that. And I think it's really important that we get out to people the reality that is, it's about control. That's why a lot of other things concern me that I see in our world today, because control is a huge issue. And, you know, we talk all about what freedom is and isn't, but we really need to think about it. And I know we're all fractured, we're all imperfect people, but we still need to treat one another respectfully and do what's right, not just for the wealthy, but for everybody.
Absolutely. You have no idea how many women are very wealthy. They stay in this marriage. They're treated horribly. They drink a lot. And this is their way to cope with everything what's going on.
Right.
And they stay because otherwise they're going to end up on the street.
Yep.
That's it. And they just take one day at a time. They take these pills for depression and stuff like this. I have no idea. I'm so happy because I was able to cope with everything. I came here alone. I cope with my pain. I cope with my depression. I cope with my questions. I cope with everything. What was going on?
Mm-hmm.
I said, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do that. And I was coping with this harassment, with robbery, with everything what you could possibly imagine. At the same time, I'm proud of myself because I was able to get on the charts with my songs, with my work, and I was able to help to build a shelter here. And I said, you know what? I'm not going to give up on myself. I'm not going to go back. And I'm not going to say, oh, you're doing this to me, then I'm going to submit myself. It's not going to happen. Never. Until my last breath. Wherever happened, I'm going to deal with this and I'm going to help other women. And I will continue to do that until my last breath. Because this is my duty as a woman to help other women. And I'm telling women, don't compete with each other. Let's come together as a team. And let's start working on this. Because it's really important. And like you said, it's why COVID-19 is the same thing we are facing long before COVID-19. And this needs attention. We need to come together as a team. We need to become one so we can say, hey, we had enough of it. Where is the end of it? We are not here to be blocked. We are not here to be robbed from our freedom. We are not here to serve our excess needs until the rest of our lives. Because most of the time women are put to the wall, pushed to the wall, so they can go back to their ex to finish the job. Just because he's a good liar, manipulator, and all of this ugliness they talk about you behind your back. And you have no idea how many lies I heard behind my back from people who doesn't know me. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Who, me? I will do something like this? You don't know me. You have never seen me. How come you believe? And you're a woman, you should take my side. It's terrible. It's terrible. I don't know how the society we can change this. And you're attacking people just because the woman is out of this marriage because she wants to preserve herself, her mental health. I came here, I couldn't talk from verbal abuse. I couldn't talk. I was stopping. I was missing my thoughts. I was forgetting what next I'm going to say from yelling and screaming and from being told that I'm wrong every single day. It was horrible, horrible situation. I could have died. My body was shutting down from the verbal abuse I was taking, which is more damaging than physical abuse. And I don't have to tell you that. And everybody's like, no, you have to stay this because you said that you took a vow that you're going to stay until the rest of your life, until the rest when I get killed or I die, and that my body's going to shut out completely and I'm going to go out of my mind. It's not right. It's not right at all. We need these laws. We need this protection. Most of the time, the women who are getting killed, they're getting killed. The perpetrator has a restraining order against him, and he comes into the house and he beats the wife to death. And he doesn't care. These people have mental problem. This thing needs to be changed. Not to mention that the people they have around, they teach them that a woman should be beat up, the woman should shut up, the woman should be told that she's wrong, and all of this because they surround themselves with ego people. And we all know that ego is not love. And I have taken so many psychology classes in psychology in my. I finished Edmonds Community College. I have Associate of Arts. and and I took so many classes in psychology, you have no idea. And these people need help, and we need help by creating a better protection around the child, around the mother. Are you okay?
Yeah,
Good.
I'm okay. There we go. Much better.
Yeah.
And Edmonds
So these are
Community
the things.
College, just a quickie, Edmonds Community College is one of my alma maters. So
Really? Oh
something
my
else
God.
to share.
Yes, yes. It was amazing
What?
time. I never forget it. I was for 4.5 years. Oh my gosh, the best time ever. It was amazing experience. Definitely. Good people, great people. The
Yeah.
professors, amazing experience. So, can you tell us how are you coping right now with your daughter, with this financial? I know a lot of people are going through the same thing. Um, what is your advice to the women who
Sure.
are deal with that? I know a lot of women are on the same boat.
Yeah, there's a lot of us, I think, that are all in the same place and dealing with the same issues. The first thing that I did, clear back in February, when I first started hearing we're doing this grant funding, I went, okay, where do I go? And sometimes it's advantageous having the research background that I have because of school. And so I went on a hunt and I found out that in my area, it's actually done through a community resource center, and they hook you up through HUD to find some resources to help pay rent. And so the first thing I did was get on that. And of course, our mail was taking 50 million years to get anywhere. And mine was taking about 75 million because it had to go all the way to my ACP address and then come to me. So it was a little more challenging because of that. And in the meantime, I have the manager from hell who is, he was hired by my landlord who has dementia. And that's according to his sister. He has dementia. But this guy was hired by him, and it wouldn't surprise me to find out that he was a member of the mob. He's bad, really bad. It's craziness. And I've dealt with him for 2 years. He tried to evict us starting in 2019. And I know the laws. And I said, you can't do that. And oh, yes, I can. And I went, nope, the law says, and I quoted him the law. And so in the meantime, I went ahead and got a hold of other resources to deal with that. So I've been fighting with this situation for a long time. So I immediately, upon receiving the documents, started filling them out. Well, before I got the documents, he showed up unannounced at my door with no mask in the middle of COVID. And knowing that I'm not supposed to have anybody in my house because my doctor has basically made this a safe zone for me, and tried to insist that I needed to fill this paperwork out right now and turn it in. He was going to hand walk it in. And I looked at the paperwork and I said, there's backup documents I need, and there's mental health information, and there's other stuff on here that's none of his business. And so 3 days later, he shows back up at the door, and I said, no, we're not giving it to you. We will file it directly. Well, I need to take it in with the lease. I said, you take the lease in. I will make sure they get this half. I will email it in as it says on the instructions and make sure they get it. So you take care of your half. I'll take care of my half. Well, he threatened us on 2 separate occasions, beyond that first thing. And I did my research and I turned it in, and I followed up with a phone call to the gal. And I said, here's the situation. He put us into abatement right before coronavirus hit. So I was dealing with that. He doubled my rent without giving me any legal notification at all. I didn't find out about that until I got the notice from Section 8 that said that my rent had gone up to almost $1,000 a month. Well, my Social Security is $1,000 a month. It would have taken almost every penny I had. I would have had no money for utilities and no money for the medication that I need to stay alive. I take 4 nebulizer treatments a day.
Ouch.
And I'm on 3 different nebulizer medications because I have a rare disease in my lungs. In spite of the fact of being a classically trained lyric soprano and doing everything I could for my voice, I wound up with this crud. So I was not happy to find that out, but
Of course.
I do what I gotta do, but
Yes.
the medications are not all covered under insurance, and it's to the tune of one medicine is almost $500. And I'm on 21 meds. Yeah. So needless to say, I have not been able to afford my rent the last 16 months. Because do I want to breathe, or do I want a roof over my head and not be able to breathe and have a daughter who's an orphan? Disabled daughter who's an orphan, even better. So that's where we've been coming from. So I got a hold of Carol and I told her, this is what's going on. She said, give me a pandemic impact statement. I said, you've got it. And and I know, because of the whole broadcast background, we're used to writing. So that's no sweat. So I banged out about a 4-page pandemic impact statement that told our story and sent it in to her. She called me about a week ago and she said, I still have no lease. I said, he was supposed to hand walk that in. And I know that your office is closed. So he sat on his butt and did nothing. And there's that B word again. Oh, well. Uh, but he sat and did nothing instead of doing what he supposedly was going to do. So I texted him and I said, you need to get the lease in. She's trying to process stuff. She can't do anything without the lease. So nothing happened for a few days. And I sent her an email and I said, just checking in, want to make sure you have everything you need. And she sent me a message back and she said, I did finally get the lease today. And she said, I now have everything that I need to take care of it. Well, last night we got the mail, and in the mail, we found out that 2/3 of our rent is now covered. So we're down to $5,000 being owed, which sounds a lot for me. I mean, I live on less than that for a
Yeah,
year.
I believe you. A lot of people
But
do.
yeah, it's just it's craziness. But it covered 10. So I'm very, very grateful for that. So what I was
Yeah.
doing early this morning was I was back on my phone researching, okay, what other places have assistance for rent? So I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
call all of those, get stuff started at those. I already started some other stuff, which I found out you can get that one or this other one that I just got. So they will help with utilities though. So I'm in hopes for that. And the other things that I'm going to do this next week, I am following up. I have cultivated a relationship with all of my legislators, which is a really important thing to have when you're
Yeah.
dealing with stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
so I sent one an email and she told me who I need to talk to. So I'm working on that. I'm going to send him an email this weekend and it'll be hitting his desk Monday morning at 8.
Good for
And
you.
I'm working on that aspect of it. I'm also going to try calling my governor. I, you you don't want to mess with me. My daughter says I dance on people's heads.
I'm the same way. Pushing and pushing for the right
Yep.
thing.
Hey, we do
I'm
what
gonna
we
go
have to
everywhere.
do.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
We
When we're
do what
doing
we
it for
have to do.
everybody,
The
not only for us.
Yeah, if it's happening to me, I'm not the only one. And
Absolutely. Absolutely.
in
Hey,
in the last 18 hours since I kind of went more public with what was going on, a couple of people knew. I basically told people, I left messages on my social media. I need prayers and thoughts, guys, without saying too much. But I finally posted something on my social media, and I have had, you're the second person now that I have talked to that has said, I'm in the same boat right now.
a
And
lot
our
of people are.
governor, bless his little heart, he's been really good about some things. Thank God for the mask thing. But he's been really bad about others. And right now, he needs to call a special session and they need to fix this rent moratorium. Until they
Yeah.
can figure things out, they need to call a special session. So I am calling him on Monday. I am also, like I said, you don't want to piss me off because I will do what I need to do. I am also getting a hold of the press next week. And I say that with a little bit of fear and trembling just because I try not to go that route. I've been press. I know what it's like on both sides of things. But sometimes
Absolutely.
you've got to do what you've got to do. And right now, with what is going on here, that needs to come out. Until it comes out, there will not be pressure on the right places to actually get off their butts and do their job.
That's true. That's very true.
So
We
I'm
have a lot
about
of
to raise a
organizations.
stink.
Yeah. Good. Good for you. Keep pushing. You're gonna get it what you want, and
Well,
you're gonna help a lot of people. I'm sure about it.
hopefully that's the goal, is to be able to help other people get where they're going and help us to get what we need so that we can stay safe and we can build a life,
Yes.
because that's ultimately, that's still the goal. I have not lost sight of it in the midst of all of the diversion. I'm doing what I need to do to get us there.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, and
Good for
I,
you.
like I said, I have plans. I have plans. I have a
That's
book.
very good.
It's almost done.
Good. I cannot wait. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I'm
Good for
I'm
you.
getting there. So, I've got way too much to do to
I
give up
know.
right
I'm
now.
the same
And
way.
it's hard. It's very, very stressful, and it's hard. It's hard on your body,
Yeah.
when you're dealing with all of that. But
It takes a
we
toll
got
on
to
your
do what
body.
we have to do, you know?
Yes. Yes. Me too. People don't know how to do. I'm finishing my book. It's already on Amazon on pre-sale. I need to submit my book until July, and it hasn't been edited yet. And I'm working on my new song, which is going to be part of my new album. Right now, I'm working on homelessness. I'm part of 3 organizations. I'm having these Zoom meetings. Yesterday, I had a meeting for 3 hours, and I was like this already, listening and getting involved with everything what's going on, so that I don't miss anything. And I'm having a meeting with the Chamber of the Commerce from Beverly Hills again, and all of these things in my life, and I'm trying to rest just a little bit, and I want to watch a movie before I go to bed, for God's sake, to take my mind away from everything what's going on. But the thing is, everything what I do it with so much love, and I can see it. You're the same way.
Yeah,
I want to
very much
help.
so.
I want to, yeah, exactly. And I want to do the best as I can for everybody else in every aspect we need help with.
Oh, absolutely. That's I would say that is at the core of what my calling really is all about. You probably noticed on my social media, I also do communication skill based competitions. I don't compete against
Wow.
anybody else. What I do is I compete against my own potential. And
That's
so
very
it
good. And you're,
becomes, I love a challenge, and I love to make
of
myself
course.
better, and
Yes.
to be able to be there for other people in ways that I couldn't otherwise. The first time that I ever competed, I was almost 40 years old. It was right before I left my ex, and everybody had been saying, because my daughter was my everything, everybody had been saying, yes, we know you're a mom, you love being a mom, we get that, but you also need to have a life. And
Yeah,
so
that's
the
true.
first time that I ever competed, I was about 38 years old, and I had a little baby daughter, and she was a gifted child. And while other kids were learning mama and dada, she was doing octopus and elevator. And I knew I was in trouble when that started. And then there was the day that we were out in the kitchen, and she had her own little drawer in the kitchen, like we moms do. And it had all the Tupperware and the Rubbermaid and everything in there. Well, she had the bottom of one of her bottles and the top of one of my Rubbermaid things. And she was playing, and I was just cooking out there. And she came over to me. She couldn't even walk at this point, but she came over to me and she handed me this thing. And I went, huh, I don't know how those two got together. And I unscrewed it and put it back in her drawer. And she very deliberately went back over to the drawer, picked it up, both pieces out of the drawer, took it over to where she was sitting right in front of me, and deliberately screwed it back on. And I freaked. She was 9 months old. I freaked. Kids aren't supposed to be able to do that till they're close to 3. And she was doing it at 9 months. And so I called the University of Washington and I said, help, I don't know how to deal with this. And I told them what was going on, and they cracked up. And They said, is she doing anything else that you think is unusual? And I said, well, yeah, her language. And I explained that she was, I'd take her to the mall and she was a teeny little thing. And she would be in her stroller, bouncing up and down, all excited, going, Mama, elevator, as we were waiting for the elevator. And you just watch the head swivel and the jaws drop of everybody that was around. And one day I'll never forget this little kid who was probably 8. He goes, did she say elevator? And I said, yeah, she did. So I knew I
Oh
was in
my God,
trouble
Mommy.
then. And they said, yeah, you need to start saving for college. And because you're going to need it. And I'm going, great. I'm on a disability income with a then husband who didn't want anything to do with anything. So he was going to be no help at all. And
I'm sorry.
I said, how am I going to do this? I started looking at possibilities for how to bring some money in. And I found a beautiful baby contest, and she was gorgeous. People would walk the length of the mall to come talk to her. It was pretty funny.
Good.
But I looked at that, and then my ex started in with the, oh no, you're not. And that's for parents, that's not for kids, and you're not going to do this. And I did some research and I didn't feel as comfortable about it as I could have. And I just decided there's got to be a better way. But before I got to that, while I was doing the research, I happened to call a gentleman who was a pageant consultant, who was also a hairdresser. And I went and had him cut my hair. And at the same time he was
Good.
cutting my hair, we were talking. And he said, you should get involved with pageants. And I laughed. I said, no, there's no pageants for me. Oh. And he looked at me and very seriously, he stopped what he was doing. He said, yes, there are. And he walked over to his counter where he had magazines and grabbed a pageantry magazine and handed it to me. And he said, yes, there are. So that started my pageant journey. And it took me a while. I had won a title 3 weeks before I left my ex. I had won a title and had to call my director from shelter and tell her why I wouldn't be at nationals, which was an interesting experience. And I wound up utilizing that experience because years later, when I was preparing to do another competition, I had been asked to go back and finish what I had started at this competition. And so I said, okay, I'm going to try and do this. And so I went back to finish what I had started. And for talent, I used a monologue that in 3 minutes turned into myself when I left. And I called the director from shelter from my cell phone on stage, although I didn't really call her, of course. But I did the whole thing of this is what a victim advocate does now, but this is the victim themselves will face all of this. And so I basically turned into myself 10 years prior.
That's
And
good.
I got through
That's
with the
very
whole
good.
thing. And I knew I had them. You'll know this. You'll be able to relate to this.
Yeah.
I knew I had them within 2 sentences because you could have heard a pin drop in the auditorium. And it's that collective, everybody's holding their breath. So I knew I had them. But I was so focused in on what I was doing that nothing mattered but getting this out right here, right now, in this moment. And I got to the end and I put my head down and I raised it again almost immediately in time to see a standing ovation. And I wound up winning the national talent title for my division.
Good.
using
for you.
extreme measures, which was a short 3-minute monologue that explained what happened when I left and why it's important for victims to get help after they leave. Don't just tell them to go, but help them to be able to do what they need to do. It's going to be a
I'm totally
long journey.
very
And
long journey.
the cool thing was everybody in that audience knew the director that I referenced in my phone call, and they all knew that it was a true story. And by the time I walked off that stage, there was probably a good 15 people still in line to go do their thing after me. I got stopped by half a dozen of them. And they said, "Are you okay? You look like you're crying." And I said, "No, I'm okay." And then they said, "I'm a survivor too. Thank you for doing what you did."
Yeah.
And I
People
realized
hide.
then that the arts aren't just the arts. And I've known that even before, but that demonstrated it so powerfully how important it is that we harness that vehicle and use it to educate and to help victims become survivors and survivors to become thrivers who become successful
Mhm.
and can reach back and help their sisters.
Absolutely true.
So that was one of the reasons that I got into the whole competition thing, but there was more. My story was told by various media, not surprisingly, but people remembered my face and remembered my story. I found this out not just because I was on public media or public transportation and kept being asked, "Where's your crown? What are you doing next?" But because I got stopped on the way to the grocery store by a woman who said, "Can you talk? I know who you are. Can we talk for a minute? I'm in a bad situation and I need help and I don't know where to go." The crown and banner have saved lives, not just hers. There have been others since then, including one that it was a mother and weeks later, her daughter. So when someone says that a crown and banner is just a stupid thing and tries to get down on what people are doing, they're wrong. They need to recognize the fact that it can be a powerful tool that can save lives as well as changing your own. The competition I'm involved in right now is called Classic Beauties International. I have not done a lot of international competitions, but I'm loving it. And what makes it special, I represent the country that has basically adopted me about, I think, 10 years ago, 11 years ago now. My daughter got involved with the Russian Orthodox Church, and she pulled me along and said, "Hey, Mom, let's do this." And I got involved and fell in love before very long at all and became part of the whole thing. And basically, we've been taken under the wing of these precious, precious people who we dearly love.
Good.
And
Very good.
they become a huge part of our lives. And then when I started realizing that I might be able to help there, that meant something to me too. And I thought I had quit competing. Never say never.
Yeah, exactly.
because of because of my illness. I have mast cell activation syndrome, which is a rare disease, and it sucks. It has some of the pieces that are involved in COVID. It's not good stuff. But I thought I was through competing because it was just too hard to do it while I was sick. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
trying really hard to keep things on an even keel. In fact, my daughter and I were talking last night, and I said, as long as I take all my medicine, 21 meds,
Oh my gosh.
I do okay. And my problem is there's 21 of them and I hate it. She said, Mom, if it makes it work for you, take them. I'm going, yeah, I know that should be a duh. But, and so here I am. I'm trying to do all the stuff that I'm supposed to be doing. And you can hear what I'm sounding like. I'm actually sounding pretty good. It's because I've been taking my meds. And by the end of the day today, I'll sound even better. But it's just how it works with the meds. But because of all of that, I thought I was through competing.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't go out and do a lot of things. And that was impacting things because if I'm going to represent something, I want to give it everything I've got. And I only want to get involved in places where I truly believe in this. And so
Good.
I had walked away. And a friend had invited me several years earlier, had invited me to compete in her competition that she created.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to do it, but I just was not financially in a place where I could do it. And I felt really bad because my friend was amazing and she passed away about,
I'm
I
sorry.
think it's been 4 years ago, something like that. Um, but she passed away and her assistant took over the competition. Well, she's expanded things and done all kinds of other cool stuff that's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I can
Mm-hmm.
see why she was my friend's assistant because she's passionate and she's just so cool. She's amazing with everything she does. And I had gotten contact and she said, would you consider being involved in my competition? And I explained to her what was going on. And I said, I can't really do special appearances. And yeah, I'd love to, but I don't think I can do this. And she says, no, we'll find ways to make this work for you if you want to do this. I said, okay, I'm in. Twist my arm a little. I'm in. And the first year I competed and represented Washington State. And the following year I got in a contact from her and she said, we're taking this international. Do you have a connection or heritage or anything like that with any other country that you would be interested in representing? And I teared up and I said, yes. I said, Russia. And I explained. And she said, okay, we got you for Russia. And then I went back and I did my homework. I always do. And I started realizing that in 2017, Russia decriminalized domestic violence and that there are only a handful of shelters in the entire country. And it's really hard to find them. I can't even find them.
Mm-hmm.
And with COVID, things became even worse. But really, in order to become safe, as I'm sure you know, you have to leave the country.
Yes.
And my heart broke into a million pieces. And that's when I said, I have to do this. Because if I'm going to make a difference, somebody has to get this out there. Somebody
Mm-hmm.
has to say, this is not okay. And I don't care who backs the decriminalize it. You
Mm-hmm.
know, that doesn't matter. You decriminalize something, that changes nothing. That just makes it that much easier for criminals to do their assault. Before COVID, it was estimated by an outside advocate company that there were 38 women dying a day in Russia. Russia is about half the size, population wise, of the United States. 38 a day.
Wow.
This is why I have to do what I'm doing. Somebody
We will
has to be
continue
a
to do this.
voice. And that's what I'm good at.
Absolutely. Yeah. We
And
would
so
definitely
that's why
change that.
I'm doing what I'm doing.
Good.
Competing also helps me to be able to hone my own skills so that when I am doing things like we're doing today, or doing work with newscasts or other types of work that I do, my skills are at their peak. And that enables me to do a much better job at what I do. That's another
Yeah,
reason why I'm
because you're an
still doing it.
example. You're an example for other women because you've been through. Right now, you're winning. You won Miss Russia, I believe. I saw it here with the crown and everything. Congratulations! This is something that you're showing women, no matter what's going on in your life and what I do as well. You can get where you want to go. You can still live. You can have the life you always wanted. You can be happy. You can compete. You can be wherever you want. Just stay strong.
Absolutely.
That's the thing.
Absolutely. And it's part of my healing. I
I
had a
believe you.
dream actually when I won my first title before I left. I had a dream that literally woke me from a sound sleep at 6 a.m. And I was walking the stage at National, and the lights popped on and they were really, really bright. And as I started across the stage, this big booming voice literally woke me up and said, "The healing has begun."
Exactly.
And when I got to Nationals, it took me several years to get there. When I got to Nationals, I went to get on those steps and go up onto that stage, and it was exactly what I'd seen in my dream. Exactly. I almost fell on those steps because it so shocked me that I was there and it was exactly as I'd seen it.
That's how it works. You manifest from your subconscious into conscious, and you know where to go and what to do and what is your calling. And with every step, with everything that is happening like this in your life, you're winning. You're basically healing yourself, and you're setting an example for the other women, which is the way it should be. Usually, we need to be examples so they can see with their eyes, not just talking, but walking what we are trying to preach and how we are going to help them. So it's really important. Continue to do this. It makes huge difference. Definitely. And your heritage is Russian, right?
Yes. So
That's good.
I know with all of the political stuff, I have dealt with things over the last little while, and it's like, no, I am just proud of who I am and the
You
people that
should
I
be.
represent. I have these people in my heart, and those are
Good.
the ones that I'm standing here for. It's nothing else but that.
Good for you. Good for
So
you.
it's, but in getting involved with it last year when we had our international finals, I had been coaching a friend of mine, one of my mentees. I do mentorship as well. And one of my
Good.
mentees had told me last year, she said, "I can do what you do." And I said, "You totally can." She says, "No, I mean, I can do what you do competing." I said, "Oh, you want to compete? Let's do it." And I hooked her up. And so she competed last year. She's competing this year.
Good for
And I'm
you.
still mentoring her. And
That's
people
very
have said,
good.
"How
Very
can you
good.
do that? Compete and mentor both?" I said, "I can
Yes, of
totally do
course.
that. This is about being myself and who I am. It's about being my
Exactly.
best self and encouraging her to be her best self. We're not the same
Absolutely.
person. We're not going to be the same person. And it's not about here's your title, here's your crown. Yeah, those are nice. And I'll have to tell you a funny story about that in a minute too. But those are nice, but it's really about having the platform and using your voice. And no
Yes,
matter what, I can do that. And my
absolutely. You
goal
can
for
do
the
anything
last
you
few
want.
years, and my goal for the last few years has been to take what I'm doing to the international levels. So when the
Good for
opportunity for
you.
international came, it was almost a no-brainer. But we got to the finals this last October, and
Good.
they began announcing and reading off names, and finally there was two of us left, and I got first runner up, missed by 3 points. So when that happened, I went, there's no way I'm walking away from this. um, with what you already know about me, you already know I am always up for a challenge anyway.
It should be.
And, there's no way I'm walking away. And
Yeah,
so I
never
came
walk
back
away.
this year, and I am on my way and doing what I need to do to be where I want to be. And the thing that I love about this particular competition is it isn't about competing with other people.
No.
She's made that very clear from the beginning. This is about being your best self. This is about supporting one another. It's an organization unlike any organization I've ever been involved with before in that respect, because we
Mm-hmm.
get the privilege of supporting one another in what we're doing. And
Yes,
everybody's doing different things, which is really cool because so many other areas are being worked in and so many lives are being touched by all of this.
absolutely.
So
That's very true.
it's been an interesting experience, and I'm looking forward to October. I think I already have butterflies, which usually doesn't happen until the last minute, but we will see what happens. I'm
Very
still
good.
trying to figure out the clothing thing, and still trying to work on covering all my fees and everything else. And it was nice because I did get some help because I was first runner up. So I just turned around, and the money that I got as being first runner up just went right back to it. I just went, I don't even want to see it. Just put it back there. I'm good. I did what I needed to do. So, but it changes lives, and
It
it
changes, yeah.
changed my
And you
life.
prove to yourself. You prove to yourself basically that anything is possible, no matter the pain, no matter what kind of struggles you're going through. You still can go after what you want to accomplish in your life. At the same time, again, set an example for others and proving yourself that you can be wherever you want to be and win. You have to
Yes.
believe and you have to have faith. These are the two things. Keep going and keep going, and every woman should do this. We should be example for them with what we are doing, and never stop. Never listen to anybody. You know what is best for you. You know what you want. Nobody
Exactly.
else. You're the
Exactly.
boss.
Yeah. And my ex, before I left, that was one of the death knells before I left, was him telling me that he hated the fact that I was doing pageants, and that, and this was a direct quote, if he could shut every single one of them down, he would be thrilled. And I went,
Yeah.
interesting. Okay. Um, I'm
Okay. Hey, this
I'm
is
not going
you.
to let that stop me. That's your problem, not mine.
Absolutely. That's
And
true. Whatever he says is him. It's not you. That's
yeah.
it. Hey, Carissa, thank you so much for being on the show, for giving so much
Oh,
power
you're
to the
so
women, for
welcome.
sharing your story. Yeah, it makes huge difference. We will have another, as soon as you finish the book, we are going to have another episode with you, and you're going to share with us everything, about your book. Why did you write it? And what kind of a message is inside? And for all the women who are gonna watch this TV series I created, I hope this is going to empower you, to inspire you. And the thing is, you need to believe in yourself, have faith in yourself, go after your dreams, go after your goal. Don't listen to anybody. And remember that age is just a number and nothing else. It's a stupid number. You can be anybody you wish to be at any age. You know what is best for you. You know what you want. It's your life, nobody else's. Thank you so much, Carissa. Thank you for being. And I wish you all the best. All the links to Carissa's website, whatever she has, is going to be under this video on YouTube. Please subscribe. Let us know. Comment what kind of a issue you would like us to cover, and we're going to do it. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a
Thank you.
wonderful, wonderful weekend.